Section 1. You will hear a man, Mr. Bird, talking to a garden designer, Maxine Johnson, about designing a garden. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Mr. Bird?
Yes?
I'm Maxine Johnson, the garden designer you rang.
Thank you for coming and for being so punctual. Dead on 2 p.m.
I always try to arrive on time. Sometimes it doesn't happen though. Have you just moved to the area?
Yes, we came here just 3 weeks ago. It's a nice area.
It's really quiet and there are lots of trees. Is the garden you want me to design for you at the back?
Yes, that's the garden that needs tidying up. I've taken out all the rubbish and cut the grass back, but it needs some design to liven it up.
I'm sure that can be easily done.
If you come through, you can see for yourself. We can go through the gate here at the side of the house. And here it is.
It's quite large. In fact, bigger than I thought it would be.
Yes, it's 25 metres long, so we've got plenty of room to play with.
Have you got any thoughts about what you'd like?
Oh, yes. We'd like a wooden patio built here from the house into the garden with enough room for a round table, chairs and a barbecue and then a lawn.
And what size would you like to have?
Say 16 square metres?
Anything else?
A small pond, but I don't want any fish. And a water fountain in the middle with some lights would be nice.
And again, the size of the pond.
About 2 metres across.
That sounds nice. You seem to have thought it all through. What I can do is put the information you give me into my tablet as we speak, and then we can look at a rough design when we've finished.
Oh, wow, that sounds very fancy.
It saves a lot of time and can give us a basic idea of costs. And we can then finalise everything later.
Brilliant.
So, we've got the patio, the pond and the fountain.
Right. And then, just beyond the pond, we'd like to have a fence, say 2 metres high, with climbing flowers, and then a door in the middle leading into a vegetable garden for growing herbs and potatoes, cabbage and beans. Things like that.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Does all this look okay?
Yes, that looks great. It's amazing what technology can do.
I can email this to you so you can think about it. When you decide you want to go ahead, we can finalise it and work out the cost.
Great.
Can I take your email address?
It's nick@neworchard.com. No spaces.
Is that NICK, then at, and ORCHARD.com?
No, it's neworchard.com. Can I just ask when you can start and how long it'll take?
It's Wednesday today. I can start next Monday, that's the 11th.
OK, the 11th of July. And how long will it take?
It's a fairly big job, and with 2 workers, it's going to take 10 working days.
That sounds reasonable. I'll talk this over with my wife and then get back to you tomorrow first thing.
That sounds fine. If you want to go ahead with everything, can you decide if the plan works for you?
Yes, sure. I'll give you my work mobile number, as that's the one that's best to contact me on.
OK, fire away.
It's 07811 499 466.
499 466.
Yes. And can you give me a rough estimate of the cost for now?
With the materials, I'd say about...
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear a radio programme about a food festival. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14.
I know there's an action-packed weekend in store for those of you heading to the capital, so I'm going to hand you over to Martina, who will tell you what you can expect to find when you get here.
Thank you, Arnold. Well, yes, this weekend seems to have a greater number of events going on than usual, and so I expect that large crowds will be using the transport system. The main shopping street in the city centre, Argent Street, is going to be closed to all traffic, including buses, from 1 a.m. until 10 p.m. on Saturday. This is because there will be an international food festival, the Food of Life Festival, which will be held on the street with stalls and street entertainment for all the family. The closure of Argent Street will unfortunately affect all the surrounding streets, and so it's best to avoid the city by car on Saturday. There will be extra buses, but remember, some of them will be diverted to avoid the festival. But at most of the central bus stops, there'll be guides who'll be in yellow jackets who can help visitors find their way around. The best way of getting to the food festival is probably by the river bus, which stops near the festival. The river buses will be increased in frequency to every 10 minutes from twice an hour. Also, the train service will be running extra trains for the day. One important piece of information that I need to point out to you is that the profits from the food festival will go to various charities helping young people in this country and around the world.
Before you hear the rest of the programme, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
In the Food of Life Festival, there won't just be food on display. There'll also be a play area for children, folk music with bands, solo singers and artefacts from different countries. For example, in the park behind the train station, there'll be the Asian sector with food stalls from China, Japan and Korea, as well as Indonesia and the Philippines. And a concert will be held at 2 p.m. for folk music. And beside the station is a help point if people lose their friends or children during the day. Just a few hundred yards south of the help point, on the same side of the road and opposite the European food sector, is something which is well worth visiting. There'll be a display of sculptures made from chocolate, not just by famous chocolate manufacturers, but also by artists, with a prize giving at 5 p.m. You cannot miss it, as it's right next to the old cinema, which is also an exciting place to visit. It'll be open for visits from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m, with guided tours every 20 minutes. The cinema is located just opposite the Latin American food display, which will also have music and dancing classes. Then further south along the street will be a craft fair in Cannery Hall, which is on the corner of Argent Street and Churchill Avenue. A further attraction is that all of the permanent shops will be offering a minimum discount of 10%. And you can also claim a 20% discount at all restaurants and cafes between 12 noon and 5 p.m. And all children up to the age of 10 eat for free. And that's not all. After 5 p.m, all the produce on the stalls in the food festival will be offered at a 25% discount. So it is a worthwhile day out for the whole family. At 9 p.m, just before the festival finishes, there will be a 15-minute firework display and street music.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. 2 overseas students called Cheng and Antonia are preparing to write a long essay. They're discussing how they're coping with the process. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 23. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 23.
What are you doing your essay on, Antonia?
I was originally going to do a comparison between French and Chinese cinema, but it's quite a big topic.
Yeah, it is.
So I've decided to restrict it to one decade, the 1970s. And I've actually got my first draft.
How much have you written?
At the moment, it's about 7,000 words, so that's around 2,000 words too long. I didn't intend to write so much.
Wow, you've written loads. How did you manage to get that amount done?
I suppose I've just been thinking of it as 2 essays, really, to help me get through it. And I've been using the checklist we got in the tutorial from Dr. Nakamura, not the checklist you and I created ourselves.
And are you happy with your draft?
I'm fairly happy with it. I usually think I can't write very much, and then when I get down to it, it's the opposite. But I also need to go through it and check for errors in typing, and also check it from the organizational point of view, which is going to be time-consuming. So I'll probably leave the checking to the end, as I'm likely to add mistakes when I start cutting and redrafting.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 24 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 24 to 30.
What about you, Cheng? How much have you written?
About 5,000 words, but it's just disjointed notes really. And the main issue is that there's no structure. But apart from the structure being a problem, I really have difficulty focusing. I usually have lots of ideas, but connecting them is a different matter.
What do you think the reason is?
Probably not having a specific title. I just can't make up my mind about what to focus on. I write notes and can write quite a lot and talk loads about the subject I've chosen, but...
What's the general topic of your essay?
Chinese photography.
Well, why not restrict yourself to one or two perspectives, like technological or cultural, or to developments in a particular period, say pre-1990s, and write about developments in the pre-digital age?
That's an idea. I can see that now. I think you've solved my problem. I'd better write this down. I wish we talked before. I wouldn't have wasted so much time.
I hope it works.
Any tips about introductions? Another of my problems. I can never get the beginning right.
The main reasons, not knowing what the stages of the introduction are. They're quite specific. Look at student support pages on the university website, and you'll find the answer there. Search for stages in writing introductions and conclusions.
Another problem solved.
Anything else?
I think redrafting when I get round to it. I'm not good at it at all. In fact, I hate looking at it when it's finished.
I know what you mean. We all suffer from that. I'm not sure what makes us feel like that. Maybe it's just fear of going back to the beginning again.
You're probably right. And I don't think there is any solution for that, bar getting down to it.
Well, you could try writing a summary of your essay at the end, and then see if the essay matches the summary.
Oh, that's a good strategy. But why leave us to do this all without specific guidance? I find it quite difficult working on my own like this. I'm not used to it.
It's not that easy for most students. Essays or any project like this are to encourage and train students in independent learning.
It's independent, all right. What's the deadline again?
It's the 17th of March, so we have another 3 weeks.
Oh, that's fine. I thought it was the end of the first week in March. That would have made it difficult.
I'd say aim to have a draft.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture about the regreening of the deserts of the world. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning to you all, and thank you for coming today. My name's Dr. John Morton. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a research fellow in the geography department, and my specialty is change in agricultural patterns around the world, historically and in modern times. Today's talk is called Agriculture, Regreening the Deserts of the World. The lecture's being recorded, so you can review it again on the university website within 48 hours. First of all, in the distant past, between 8,000 and 5,500 years ago, the Sahara, for example, was green and fertile. The world temperature was roughly the same as today's, but with little weather that was wild, such as hurricanes. At this time, areas of the world in the African, Asian, and American continents, which are now covered by desert, had more water than they do now. If we look at this slide of an artist's impression of the Sahara of that time, as you can see, the Sahara was not always so dry. There were rivers, swamps, and lakes, some of them very large. Lake Chad, for example, which today is only several hundred square kilometers, was once a huge inland sea. In total, it covered an area equivalent to France, Germany, Spain, and the UK together. At various periods, the lake broke its banks and flowed through Nigeria into the Atlantic, or the Nile in the east. Another interesting fact, as you'll see from another artist's impression of the weather map on this slide, was that the whole of North Africa was subject to a monsoon system, like that in Asia today, resulting in vast rivers that flowed for thousands of kilometers. In Algeria, underground rivers have been found that flowed into the Mediterranean, and in southern Libya, crocodile, elephant, hippo, and antelope bones have been discovered. And of interest to me as an agriculturist, there is also evidence of some of the earliest fields growing grain. If we fast forward to the modern world, are such changes likely to happen again? While what brings about these changes is complex and open to furious debate, there is no doubt that changes can and will happen, and we have to be ready for them. But this is not just about the flooding, severe winter weather, storms, droughts, and so on that have happened in recent years, but about how it'll affect our livelihoods. As regards challenges for humanity, the first thing that we have to think about generally is food security. If, as seems to be happening, Europe continues to warm up, then cereal crops like wheat and barley and fruit crops that we have depended on may not be suitable for cultivation. The UK, for example, might have to turn to producing grapes and olives and other crops suitable for hotter climates. This situation may be further compounded by countries in southern Europe, which may find their ability to produce agricultural goods severely curtailed. The overall impact will be an increase in food prices in Europe, but the impact on poorer countries will be greater. Yet there is hope. With the shift in weather patterns around the world, there's strong evidence that vegetation is increasing in certain areas that were once desert. The Sahel, for example, has seen increased vegetation cover, and so there is a chance that water might return to vast areas like the Sahara and the other great deserts of the world. So, the regreening of the...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the Ielts test, You would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.